All right, because we're on a time crunch, we're going to get this show on the road. Welcome to the what are we? What year are we in? 2024. 20 the first meeting of the Creative Arts and Entertainment 2024. I'm Representative Carpenter, Chairman Carpenter. Beside me is Vice Chair Scott Hilton. Our good friend, Chairman Josh Bonner, has brought someone from his district that has some fantastic information on film and the economic impact for Fayette County that we wanted to bring in so she could go through some of this stuff, because I think it's important as as you see legislation coming out about tax credits on film and studies showing economic impact. This study is actually just a community-based economic impact that shows how much film has changed Fayette County through the Trilith Project. And so, without further ado, I'm going to let Chairman Bonner introduce you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We are so glad to have Nikki Vanderslice here, the President and CEO of the Fayette County Development Authority. Nikki was actually a constituent prior to the great redistricting that took place. Now she's a constituent of Chairman Karen Mathiak, but we are so glad to have her here up from Brooks, Georgia. And Nikki, if you could if you want to either microphone, if you want to come up to, and if you would just take a moment to introduce not only your team, but also your all-stars over here along the side.
Thank you, Chairman Bonner. Give me 1 second. Let me try to find you.
WIT2? Okay, let's try that. Okay. Very good. Cooking with gas, as we say in the country. So thank you very much for having us today. I did bring some special guests with me. We felt like it was Bring Your Daughter to Work Day. So I have my two little girls, Addie and Katie Vanderslice. They are in 1st and 2nd grade. Katie has been to the Capitol before. Addie has been, but she was in utero the last time she was here. So it's the first time getting to see the exhibits, and they've already been walking around this morning enjoying that. But joining us also is our team. Amanda Fields is our Director of Existing Industry, and Rosie Mata is our Director of Operations at the Development Authority. And Rosie brought her daughter to work with her. She is at the Utopian Academy in Fayette County and is studying film and performing arts. And so she was interested in what we had to say. She's already heard it, but she wanted to hear it today again. So thank you. I will be mindful of the clock and try and move through this very quickly, but I wanted to paint a story for you of one community. You hear a lot of numbers around the film industry and what it means to the state of Georgia as a whole, but specifically to Fayette County, what it means to us. I'd like to take you back to 2008, and there was local leadership within our community that was looking at this thing called the West Fayetteville Bypass. And everybody, if you go back and look at comments in the newspaper from then, people said, we don't need a road there. Why would they put a road there? The traffic counts aren't there. It doesn't merit it, all of those reasons. But our Board of Commissioners at the time for the county saw the opportunity for the potential of what might come, and they paved this road to nowhere, as it was dubbed, within our community. That was in 2008. Well, something was happening here at the Gold Dome in 2008, of which many of you are familiar with, and that is the film tax credit was enacted, bringing the opportunity for film to come to Georgia. We saw it y'all saw it as an opportunity and said, let's see if we can put an incentive behind that and what happens. And so 2008, Fayette County was on its own path. The state had this new tax credit. Well, let's fast forward to 2013, and we had a citizen that was interested and thought there might be an opportunity. He and his wife happened to be in London in 2012 at the Olympics, and they went and saw the backlot at Pinewood Studios in the UK. And as I have heard the story told, she gave him the thumbs up then that he could consider doing a studio. And so he had a location, had seen some filming of Drop Dead Diva, which you may or may not have seen, was filmed in Peachtree City. And they had a production office in an unused airport hangar. We're using that space, and he thought, well, I wonder if we could locate a studio here. So he brought Pinewood to Fayette County to look and try and sell them on. We got this available space over at Falcon Field, and they said, we have had so much with air traffic at Heathrow, we don't want to be anywhere near an airport. We had a very fast-thinking president at the Development Authority at that time. His name's Matt Forshee. And do you know? And Matt said he pivoted very quickly as he tells the story, and he drove them by this wheat field on that road, the West Fayetteville Bypass, that's now known as Veterans Parkway. And there was about nearly 300 acres. He showed them it was a wheat field, and it stood there. It met one of their needs, which was to be within 20 minutes of Atlanta Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport, where they could make direct flights back to the UK. And from that, Pinewood Atlanta Studios was born on that 300-acre tract of land. In 2013, and I know that good leadership often comes with tough decisions that I tell our local elected officials, and will continue to beat the drum on, that sometimes that's making tough decisions that are not going to get you reelected, but they're the right decisions. They may cause issues at family reunions even, if you will, but they're tough decisions that are the right decisions for the long haul. So go back in those decisions that were made to pave the road to nowhere in 2008. And then the Fayette County Development Authority did an unheard of 20-year abatement on a film studio and took a risk. It was an emerging industry in the state of Georgia. As I said, the credits came to be in 2008. This was 2013, so they had been around about 5 years. And now the Development Authority did a 20-year abatement on the property where the studio is. Not any of the surrounding property, just the studio piece of that. There are 9 members on our Development Authority, and 7 of them were replaced in 2014. They were either asked, they're not reappointed, or they were asked to resign. And so come 2014, we had a brand new board, because the board in 2013 had decided that they thought that the film industry was a growing industry in Georgia, and that they were willing to incentivize it to come and locate in Fayette County. Well, we got a new board in 2014, and that board has been in place pretty much intact since then, and has done some really remarkable things that we'll talk about. But that gives you a lot of background on how we got to this study. Our study specifically focuses on the years 2018 through 2022. The reason that we focused on that was we felt like the land was purchased in 2013. They had to get started. You didn't want to look at it the first year that they were in production, that productions were happening there. You wanted to give it some growth time. And then we did the study in 2023, and we didn't have a full year to capture then. So that's kind of how we got to the 5-year period. If you'll notice on page 4, that there is the property was purchased in 2013 at a fair market value of $780,000 for nearly 300 acres. That property today has a property value of $183 million. That's, by my math, that works out to be an increase of 23,000% increase in property value. Remember, I told you about the Development Authority did an incentive. They did the 20-year abatement. It was a 5% increase each year. So they started paying 5%, and it increases by that increment for 20 years. So we've just reached the 50% mark. The next column in that table will show you that the property taxes that were paid on that property, that same 300 acres, in the 10 years prior to the purchase by Pinewood Studios Atlanta, now Trilith, they paid a total of $101,000 in property taxes, so about $10,000 a year. Under an abatement schedule, they have paid $5.6 million in property taxes. That's a 5,500% increase in property taxes over another marked 10-year period. I'd say it was a pretty good return on investment by the Development Authority to do that. If you will, you can see on page 5 what was studied, both the direct, indirect, induced, and social effects of the industry within our community. We worked in partnership. At the end of the study, you can see who all was interviewed. Boyette Consulting did the study for us, so it was an independent firm that came in and did that. It was paid for by the Development Authority because while we can talk in a lot of anecdotes about what's going on in our community, we wanted to be able to say this truly is an industry within our community. We think of advanced manufacturing, we think of corporate headquarters, we think of all of those things. This is a standalone industry within our community with a lot of pieces to it, and we wanted to know what that looked like and what the impact was. To skip to the very quick page 8, give you the key findings. We are proud to say that the study found that the film industry over that 2018 to 2022 period had a $1.4 billion impact just on Fayette County. On the state of Georgia, from productions that happened within Fayette County, it was a $1.9 billion impact. That's a $500 million leakage. My board very quickly said, what are we going to do about that? That means that there are things within the industry that can be found somewhere else in Georgia but cannot be gotten in Fayette County. And so we're leaking it to our neighbors in Henry County or Covington, Newton County, Conyers, somewhere else. And I use a costume shop, okay, as an example of one of the pieces of the puzzle that we know we have leakage. We don't have a costume shop in Fayette County. They're used as part of productions. Is that something that we would recruit? It depends. They don't need to be on the lot at Trilith and pay the rent that's paid there. They're just as easily 20 minutes away in delivering those. And so what we are doing is we are in interviews right now for a director of film position because we understand the growth opportunity within this industry. I missed in my timeline that in 2015, Governor Deal announced the creation of the Georgia Film Academy, which is also located in Fayette County, and that came alongside. So there were the tax credits, and then the built environment came, and then the Film Academy has done so much in the workforce development piece to create a below the line workforce for our state. So now we have citizens of the state of Georgia. We're not importing those to come in from other states. They live here. We see them in the grocery store. We see them at church on Sunday. We see them in our community, and they're integrated into the fabric. I will tell you that in 2023, with both the writer's strike and the SAG strike that we saw, that on the lot at Trilith, they generally average 4,500 active badges on the lot, okay? During the strike, they had about 200 active badges on the lot. We felt that in our community. We felt it in that I was telling Chairman Bonner yesterday, everybody under the sun that had ever built anything for a set was willing to build you cabinets. They were willing to do home improvement projects. They were trying to feed their family because they were on a strike from April until October, and we felt it in our community, what that looked like. So I say that it didn't just impact somebody somewhere else. It impacted our community. We have one of the largest purpose-built sound stages in the world, but definitely in the U.S. now with the latest opening of the stage at Trilith. We have over 1 million square feet of sound stages, and you can see all of those other numbers that are included on page 8 and 9. The numbers that are part of the states are included in the Fayette County. Fayette County is included in the state numbers so that you can see what our leakage was elsewhere. In the state. I'm happy to pause and answer any questions or keep going at your pleasure.
Questions, anyone? Are we enjoying consuming the information? Keep going? All right, keep rolling.
Okay. If you'll turn to page 12, there's a breakdown of that $1.4 billion and what that looks like, the contributions to Fayette County, the labor income, and the state and local taxes that were paid. I would like to take a moment and say that, we talked about the film tax credit for just a moment. That is specifically to the production. So none of the built environment within our community receives the benefit of that tax credit. It's the production that could choose any location. They could choose Georgia, they could choose New Zealand, they could choose anywhere to make their production. They're the ones that are receiving the benefit of the tax credit specifically. The built environment that is here does not receive that tax credit. And so I want you to keep in mind as you're thinking of that, what it looks like. You did the incentive to get them, but each production is a new business that comes, and we're competing every time they make a choice of where they're going to go, we're competing with other studios in Georgia. We're competing with other studios throughout the world. And so what that looks like, we have other studios that have developed, as well as we talk largely about Trilith because it is the biggest piece of our puzzle. But we also have Level Up. We have Magnolia Studios in Tyrone. So we see that industry growing and the desire for those because the workforce and the built environment is in our community, that people are going, okay, this is where we want to be. So moving on, you can go through. There's lots and lots of numbers there. I'm happy to cover any of them that you would like. But if you will look at specifically page 24, what has come with the studio was what was incentivized to locate. But the town of Trilith that is located adjacent to that was a vision for having a place that creatives could interact. And while I think everybody thought that it was going to be the film industry that lived there, that was going to be, it's not. It is the place that everybody in the county goes to eat. It's got good food. It's the place that people that say, you know what, we're seeing a younger demographic choosing to live in Trilith because they said, I don't want the maintenance of 1 acre. They want options. And for our community, I have said density is not always a positive word, but density is really done really well at Trilith. And so we have seen the model of what that can look like as we're working on that. So the town of Trilith, the investment that has come there with the opening of a new hotel, multiple restaurants, Trilith Live that's coming, a live performing arts facility. It has a school within the town. It is a part of the city of Fayetteville. I want to be very clear. It's called the town at Trilith, but it is a part of the city of Fayetteville, very proudly a part of the city of Fayetteville. And so we're excited to see what's coming with that. Trilith town, studio, all of it together has on their planning board $2 billion of additional investment within their community, within that area. And so, but they can only do that if there's continued productions that cash flow and make things work. And those are going to be dependent upon the tax credit. And so I would say, as you are considering that, please make sure that you remember us and what that impact is going to look like. If we get to the place where a tax credit has a cap on it, well, basically, how do you determine what that looks like? And when you get there, then what do they do after the cap's been reached? Do they just shut down for 6 months? Are we in a strike situation? I think there's a lot of unknowns about that, and I would say please use us as a resource to say, how is this going to have an impact at the local level when it hits the ground, because we're happy to talk about that. Trilith has done a phenomenal job in giving back, that their philanthropic efforts have been significant. I think it's $27 million. 27 million in reinvestment into our community. They hold a Real People Gala that they bring together a pool of nonprofits in the community, and instead of everybody coming and asking at different times, they're able to sell tables and reap the benefits of that. And so they reinvest those back into, collaboratively reinvest those. They've invested in the Forest School. They're going to build a fire station for the city of Fayetteville. They're just continuing to pour in and build into the fiber of our community. And so while we knew that film was significant and Trilith was significant within our community, we didn't know that it was this significant. And so being able to have this study, I would challenge any economic developer that has anything with film going on to track your data and then be able to tell your story. And that really is where we are, is we can tell our story. We can say this is the impact that it's had. I'd like to come back to you in 2 years and say this is our updated study, because we've tracked it. We know more of what has filmed on location out in the county. We know by just what says it's filmed in Fayette County and what our film locations person has worked with. We know those pieces of it, but being able to really quantify that. And so we're looking at what are our next steps. But our next steps are largely going to be determined by what your next steps are and what the industry decides to do.
Well, thank you for that shotgun wedding there. I really appreciate it. It's a lot of information. I know she didn't get to cover everything. We do have some questions, so we're going to go to Chairman Bonner in just a second. But I urge you to read through this material. It's, obviously there's a lot of friends for the entertainment and the film tax credit on this committee, but arm yourself with information, because there's some great information on here. Two things that I would like to point out, and then I'll go to questions. The one piece is the transition to in-state talent. If you'll read back on page 57, it talks about when Ant-Man was filmed in the state, it was 80% of out-of-state talent. Now it's currently at 15%. So that shift has occurred, and this is employing Georgians. It's not recruiting people to come to Georgia to change the politics of Georgia. It is literally giving our Georgians jobs. So that piece was a big piece. And the other piece that I think this study is missing is it said there was 267 airplanes in the hangar at Peachtree Airport. That's a lot of ad valorem tax. That is a lot of ad valorem tax that's not in this study. So I would urge you to capture that in your study as well, and obviously fuel tax, etc. So that's a piece that's missing. So I'm gonna go to Chairman Bonner.
Thank you, and Nikki, thank you so much. This is a great product, as you mentioned. I think as we discussed previously, it's one thing to talk about these big numbers that impact the state, but when we are able to go back to our communities and really quantify what's happening locally, that's tremendous. I will point out, too, as we've discussed, that two of the other major development projects that Fayette County has landed, the QTS data center and then the headquarters of U.S. Soccer, is a direct result of the investments made in developing Trilith. So that was another component of that, right? Could you just briefly for a moment help us, our committee, to understand some of the information gaps that are missing that could help other communities flesh out studies like this? Things from Department of Revenue, things we don't know that we really need to know.
Yes, thank you. And you are absolutely correct. I'm remiss that I did not mention QTS, one of the largest data centers in the world, is making a significant investment in Fayette County in the property adjacent to Trilith Studios. They saw the vision of what our community had to offer and decided to locate there, as well as the recent announcement of U.S. Soccer will be just about a mile north of Trilith. And so we're excited when they looked at the community. They said, this is where we want to be. It's a forward-thinking community. So thank you for that. We did find difficulty in tracking the spend of films specific to Fayette County, and the Department of Economic Development has the application and then it gets approved, but when it gets to the Department of Revenue, it's a private taxpayer issue, and so there's not any ability to know what that film spend in Georgia is. We would like to see some modification to that, quite honestly, so that we could track what that spend is. We are also looking at some local incentives that would allow us to track it. They would be required to give us information in order to get the incentives as part of that. But I think there's some things that can be done to open the transparency piece of it. They are an individual taxpayer, but at the same time they're receiving the benefit, and the state ought to know exactly what that spend is, as well as the residents.
Right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Nikki, this is incredible. This is great. It gives us a lot of information to kind of fight back some of the negativity that we've been hearing over the past couple of years. I appreciate you mentioning the cap, and I totally understand that. And to the committee, you think about the massive investment in the actual buildings that's done. I think that's left out when we were talking with the last economic development guy of the state said once the industry is up and running, then the tax credit needs to go away. And I'm like, I don't think you quite understand how this industry actually works, and that if we mess with the tax credit, then not only do we lose those jobs, but these buildings will sit, and all the cash that has gone into the actual construction and the infrastructure of these buildings evaporates immediately.
We thank you. I had an opportunity when the report came out the audit report came out, a media outlet contacted me and asked for comments. And my comment was, if something happens to the film industry, we're going to have a lot of large empty buildings. And we're going to be really trying to figure out, what does that look like? Who could utilize that? What could it be? And quite frankly, we would end up with a lot of distribution centers. I mean, from just how do you repurpose that? What does it look like? That's not the highest and best use for our state. And I think that there are opportunities throughout the state. I would challenge each of the communities. I grew up in South Georgia. I'm a rural South Georgia girl. That look at what are your opportunities, and it used to be that you had to be within a certain mileage of Atlanta for day travel. Well, as it grows, as Atlanta grows, as that grows, it's going to reach other parts of the state. It doesn't happen overnight. We're a 10-year story in the making, but we feel like we're getting there as well. And so, thank you. Yes.
Follow up, Mr. Chair. Real quick. So 2 things. This ATL Wood picture on page 21, is that real or photoshopped?
That's Photoshopped.
Okay, because we need one of those somewhere. Anybody? I mean, that's awesome. I love it. I can't figure out how to pronounce it, but let's build one.
Let's build one.
The second thing is the film Trilla should be willing to share that data with you of what they spend just to use as a defense against. And so these studios need to, and I'd say this to the representatives of the studios, y'all need to encourage them. It's like, look, we don't want to look at all your taxes, but we just need to see actually give us some dollars of what you're spending within our communities so we can use that as a tool to keep that at bay.
Well, and I will offer that Trillith did give us. They gave us a lot of information, but they couldn't give us their tenants' information, the production's information, and so that's where the gap is in they were part of the meetings and part of the team in pulling it together. They've been a great partner. I don't want there you have it. That they have been a wonderful partner for us. It's the production side of it that we really need the help in collecting that data. Thank you.
He's been in trouble with the law since the day he was born.
Oh, is that me? Oh, there's no number on here. Hi. Thank you so much for being here today. I am in Smyrna in Cobb County, and my district includes the Battery. I was on the Smyrna City Council when all that was developed, so I keenly understand the feeling of valid satisfaction when you are able to demonstrate to naysayers who say something will tank your county and get you all voted out of office, that something can truly be a transformative success. And so I'm thrilled for what y'all are experiencing in Fayette County, and I'm very excited that we have this data because we all have the narrative about the formidable and phenomenal impact of the film industry on our communities. And to have the data, to back up that narrative is profound. I remember the first time I visited Trilla, and I said, okay, this is in the city of Fayetteville. And they said, yes. I said, and you have this level of density? And they said, yes. I said, you have accessory dwelling units? And they said, yes. I said, you have short-term rentals? And they said, yes. It's like, how did you do this in the city of Fayetteville? Like, how did you get past the density is a 4-letter word, density is a specter of doom? And, again, that goes to showing, not telling, right? And I just think that anyone who is having conversations in their community at the local level, at the development authority level, about how if you increase density, it will destroy your entire way of life and it's just going to be bedlam and awfulness. We have proof in Georgia, indisputable proof, that we can have something for everyone in our communities, right? Because you are spot on right that so many young people who grew up rattling around the back of their parents' minivans having to deal with cutting the grass on that acre of land have 0% interest in spending their one wild and precious life having to drive around a minivan 40 minutes every evening to go from one practice or another, or having to cut their grass every weekend. They have decided that might not be the highest and best use of their time. So I'm very excited to, again, just to see what y'all have done, to know what is possible, and to also, have the courage, right? That the politicians down there, that the policymakers down there had the courage and the fortitude to say, no, we are going to do this We're 99% sure it's not going to be as awful as y'all say it is, and in fact, it's probably going to exceed your wildest expectations. And it also says a lot about the staff that you'll have down there to say, this is the right thing to do. And I'm really excited we have this. Now for the ATL Wood, there might be a mountain in DeKalb County. Y'all could put the words on, but I think, but that might be an elegant solution to a tricky problem. But no, thank you for being here. Thank you for this information, and just keep on doing what y'all are doing. Because, and again, and also talking about the unquantifiables. The examples I use all the time are like how a film production company repainted my son's high school football stadium. That saved me, a school taxpayer, a lot of money. That's not ending up in any report. I think about the time that a film, they used the scout hut at a church near us as the makeup room, and then made a multi-$1,000 donation to the Boy Scout troop. There are so many things like that, thousands of things like that happening across the state that aren't captured in any economic development report. So we know that this halo effect is real, it is profound, it is impactful, and it would, you want to talk about the but-for test that economic developers talk about all the time. That impact would not be here but for the film tax credit. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Nikki. Mine is quick. Everybody has said everything. I am just enamored with the report. Data speaks, and so as we look to expand other opportunities, I have a couple of studios. I have Tyler Perry, a little small one. I have Lakewood. And but there still is the gap, and as we said, in the industry. So I know next week we're going to be having a conversation. The chairman has approved for a conversation about industry equity. And so the committee will get there. It's going to be on February 9th from 12 to 2. We'll have lunch. Capitol's 216, and we'll be bringing in members from the Black Entertainment Economic Council to talk about how do we make sure that this is an equitable industry for all. And I'm not talking about below the line, I'm talking about above the line. So thank you, because we do have the same elements of data that shows while we're doing a fantastic job in a lot of counties, there's still some gaps and barriers that we have to overcome. Thanks.
So, from your neighbor, the county of the Walking Dead, I'm here. I'm here to say we are all thriving in that area. And maybe one of the statements to make after an industry is established and up and going is the unintended but positive consequences of that. My area has been covered, that area of Sonoy, now is yours, it's been covered in Southern Living. They built homes there. But no one knew that tourists would come from all over the world to be a Walking Dead actor for a day. And so it is, I think the pitch would be the positive unintended consequences that are still going on. So just add that to your talk too.
Well, and to that point, we Sonoy does not have a they have a bed and breakfast, but they don't have a lot of hotel accommodation, lodging accommodations. And so we reap the benefit in Fayette County, Peachtree City specifically, of a lot of the tourists that come to see Sonoy and The Walking Dead. And what happened there, that they stay with us. So we get those hotel motel nights within our community, and we're very thankful for that. But we're a good partner as well, in that Sonoy is often considered the downtown for Fayette County, for Peachtree City. So thank you.
So I have to, as a closing comment, you might house them, but we get your taxes from Costco, from all of our big. So as I was saying, it is the unintended positive consequences.
That's correct. That's correct.
All right, we're going to do one more, and then we got to shut her down, folks. Number 10.
Hi, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So Ant-Man was actually the first movie set I got to work on. And that just happened because we were short talent. So that 80% number is definitely correct. How much has the demographics changed in Fayetteville since Ant-Man? Like, how much has the population increased, and the difference in, like, has Fayetteville gotten younger as an average age?
Well, I don't know that we've gotten younger as an average age. So I'll give you put on my other side of my economic development hat. And we've got some challenges within our community that we're working on. We've got 74% of our community that is working leaves the county every day to come in, and 74%, to go out to work, whether that's in Midtown or that's at the airport or that's at Chick-fil-A. We have a lot of large employers that are outside the county. So we export 74% of our workforce, but we import 74 as well. So I don't know that we really have a good measure on what that's done to the demographics. I look forward to seeing that in the coming years. What I will say, and I have said this about U.S. Soccer and the location there, is that an engineer can be an engineer anywhere, right? But if you want to be a physical therapist for U.S. Soccer, you now have one option of places to do that. And so the trending age, what we are looking at is the trending age of what are the things that you can only do in Fayette County? And that's what we're looking for attracting, in that someone would select to move there, that it would be younger. We are the oldest county in Metro Atlanta with an average age of 47. People love to live in town Atlanta, and then when they get a kindergartner, they decide to come home to Fayette County. No, it's very young. It's still childbearing age is what my husband tells me, but but that's the challenge that we run into. Is 47 is not old, but it is the oldest average age in Metro Atlanta, and so we're working really, really diligently focused on what is it that we attract. How do we what's the best land use for our community to reduce that age gap. So.
Well, man, what a great meeting. I appreciate it. We are out of time. I would say, just as a man that represents Soccertown USA up in Dalton, Georgia, I was a little heartbroken that U.S. Soccer didn't come on up 75, but I don't even think we're in the game for it. So congratulations on that and the growing movement of soccer in the state of Georgia and with United, et cetera. So thank you for that. Thank you for what you've done, and we look forward to further conversations as this season rides on through. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you.